Break down life inch by inch.
Start recording here.
And I have the opening here. I have a Mel Robbins style opening for this call. And it goes like, hey you, yeah, you in the box with your mic off and you in the box with your mic on, I see you. And I want you to hear this. You're not broken. You're not behind. And rejection is not the end. It's the invitation. Because let's get one thing straight. Rejection feels personal, but it's not punishment. It's positioning.
Let me tell you a story. A few years ago, I applied for something I wanted so badly. A job, a relationship, a spot on a stage. It doesn't matter what it was. I put my heart in it. And I've got the dreaded email. We've decided to move forward with somebody else. You ever gotten that one? You read it twice, or maybe you read it wrong the first time. You start making up stories. I'm not good enough. I'll never get there. Who do you think I am? Who do I think I am? But here's the truth. I want to drill into you today. That no wasn't divine. Not yet. And that's how I want to start today. I want you guys to, let's say, so what is that sparking you? Let's begin with that.
I'm not clear on your question. What do you mean? What is that sparking you?
I can start, Josias.
Go ahead, Austin.
Well, it sparks in me is I was in sales for 19 years, so I received plenty of those messages. You didn't get the deal, or you weren't the one, and it's not the ones that you get generally, but it's the one where you think you're going to get. You feel like you deserve it. You put the work into it. You positioned yourself, and then you get an email that's usually vague. A lot of times you don't even get a phone call. Usually you get an email. We decided to go in another direction. That stings, and it's like a gut punch. And you think to yourself, and when I was real young and immature, I would get angry. I would be like, I always think that sometimes frustration is entitlement in disguise. Sometimes frustration is entitlement in disguise. But it was wanting to know why. And I found that there was one thing to get a sale, but it was another fight, if you will, to get that follow-up call. Tell me why. Because people don't want to, they're afraid to tell you no. And I found I had to work to hit me between the eyes. Tell me, because like Toastmasters, it's the only way I can improve if you tell me what you didn't like. Why did you decide to go in another direction? And that is difficult for the person to tell you, and it's difficult for you to seek it, because you almost want to say, it was them, they're messed up, and then you move on. And that kind of manifests in business transactions, but it also manifests in our relationships too. We don't want to have those difficult conversations. That's what it sparked in me. I had many stories about that, and I can relate to that.
Yeah, in the relationship. Go ahead.
Thought came when Austin was speaking about it manifests in relationships. If you get rejected a lot in any field, it can end up creating a psychology where you're the one who's always rejected. That's the identity with which you go forward. And then you're doing everything to fight against it. And from your own vantage point, you think that you're working your hardest, you're doing your best. But from an external standpoint, particularly for someone, let's say, who just met you, you might look like a try-hard and all these other things correctly because you've internalized and made an identity out of the wrong psychological paradigm, you may say. And I met Josias one time, and he gave a beautiful speech about emotional damage. Let's say someone's emotionally damaged one way or the next when they're 7 years old or 15 years old. And let's say now they're 50 or 60 or 40 or 35. And that psychology has what I just described turns into something like that same thing, but like it's like their whole identity is who they've been for 15 or 20 or 30 years or their whole life. And healing those wounds is really important.
Wow. Emotional damage. Get it on Amazon. Just go to Amazon.com. This podcast is sponsored by Emotional Damage. Now, Willard, you're somebody that like you're on the phone every single day, probably like 12 hours a day. So does rejection even faze you anymore?
Well, since we're talking about books, I mean, I years ago adapted the psychology of a book called Go for No. So no, I look at going, great, give me another no, get off my list. You know, I mean, if you haven't read the book Go for No, it is paradigm shift when it comes to dealing with rejection, because most people are focused on and fighting to get the yes, and when they don't get it, they get the there's just the author of that book did a really good job of talking about multiple reasons that actually going for no is better. And one of them is just it helps you kind of become resistant to the rejection. Yeah, there are times, depending on how they say no, that it might have some sting to it. But the idea is, look, not everybody's going to like my product, my service, my presentation. I don't need to be focusing on that.
Well, I read that book a while back, but I have to reread it. I think I have to reread it because it's like whenever you restart something, it's like I started playing chess again about 2 weeks ago, and then I realized that I was losing more games, and then my rating actually went down like 100 points or 150 points when I started playing again, and that's because I asked ChatGPT why is my rating going down? Why am I losing games? And then it said, because you're not as sharp as you were when you were playing every day. So I think that applies to sales, business, relationship. Jim Rohn said if you don't use it, you lose it. If you don't play, you're not as sharp. If you're not doing it, you're not going to be as sharp. So,
yes.
Well, go ahead, Al. Do you have a thought?
One of the things I always say, if you're in the gray, the person will go away. If you're in the gray, and people love putting us in the gray, as I was saying before, and that's why I like what Willard was saying, referencing that book, because if you stay in the gray, it's not going to go anywhere anyway. But people love the gray because they don't want to make a decision. They don't want to tell you no, and that's why I love go for no. And I even would say that for people, just tell me no now. Give me the no. I'm okay with it. Like, we're going to be friends or whatever. I think making people more comfortable with saying no is a good thing, and they feel like, wow, I said no, and there's no emotional damage, right? I said no and I'm okay. Like, everybody's okay. And I think it's a beautiful thing to celebrate. Now, I used to celebrate the no's. It's almost a private victory. And I'm not sure if this is in the book, but that there's a quantifiable amount of no's that are going to be the backdrop for the yes, right? I think you all know that. It's a great reminder.
And another thing that I like from the book, kind of piggybacking on what you were just saying, Austin, is people get so focused on the yes that they limit their ability to succeed. Because again, if we're talking sales, like, all right, I've got to get 10 sales this week. And based on the way most people's psychology is, you get the 10th sale by Tuesday and you slack off for the rest of the week. If you're going, okay, I'm going to focus on getting 50 no's, and it has to be 50 no's in a row. If I get to number 49 and somebody says yes, I got to start all over again. You end up closing 26 because you're not relaxing when you hit your goal. You just change the goal, you change what you're focusing on, but you improve the outcome because you're not feeling rejected. Again, you actually get excited to get the no. And like Austin just said, I had a call yesterday with somebody where I'm speaking to them, and I'm starting to find out with some of my qualifying questions that they're not a fit for what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Old me previously would have been, okay, I got to find a way to win them over, convert them, overcome their objection. And I said to the guy, I'm like, sounds like you don't need what I've got, so there's no real reason for us to go further into this call. Boom, let's move on to the next one. I waste my time and my energy trying to convert somebody that I'm never going to convert.
That's so good. I'd like to share something on that, but I don't want to jump in here, Josias. A great story.
Just before you do that, let's shout out to Richard Fenton and Andrea Waltz. This podcast is sponsored by Go For No. Go For No, just kidding. Go ahead.
First of all, I love Sasha's name, Fearless, because I think you got to be fearless when you're going for no. But I had a call, Willard sparked my memory. A call I had where I had an event, and I was selling speaker spots, and I had a gentleman referred to me. I got on the phone with them, put me through the ringer with questions, asking me all these. And I finally said, I don't think this is a fit for you. Like this, based on what you're saying, and I just don't think this is probably not for you. And as soon as I said that, he immediately began to sell me on why he was a fit, right? So, and what happened was, because he came across as this real, intense, almost I call it it's like the four fit: dolphins, sea urchins, and whales, right? Sea urchin is the one who wants all the facts. They want to know all the details. He was that person. And I was like, man, this is like a little over the top. I don't think this is a fit. But what happening was, he ended up turning into a great relationship. He came to the event. He was awesome. And then I just ran into him randomly at a coffee shop, and he said, when are you doing your next event? See, so out of all the people, he's the one guy that's like, when are you doing? I want to be involved. When are you doing your next one? So you never know. When you stand in your truth and you don't need everybody, and you're willing to say, matter of fact, go for the no. Just give me the no. It's such a powerful catalyst. And when Willard was sharing that, it reminded me of that story. Just happened.
I want to add as well. Personally, this is very helpful and typically very motivational. It is something I'm working on in a very personal nature. So I want to thank you all for helping encourage me without realizing it. And for something very important. And I want to add as well, there is a TED Talk that I saw, maybe came out sometime 10 years ago. I saw it maybe 8 years ago. It's by some woman, I don't remember her name, but she said that in terms of personal development and self-help and everything, the way the trend has gone in modern times is the qualities that are extolled are normally those that are related to being a charismatic, extroverted, generally salesperson. And she gave a callback to the largely contrasting qualities of Abraham Lincoln, a president who is generally revered by people as one of our truly great presidents and men of great character. And those qualities were introversion, deep, analysis, introspection, and so forth. And I think it's very important, just like as in with masculine and feminine or night and day, yin and yang, to balance the two as well. Also, yes. I want to give credence to that, the other side of the coin too.
Wow. Okay, let's add some context to the story. Willard, why don't you tell us what you do, and then how do you arrive at these conclusions that you had with Go For No, and why did you need this book in the first place?
Well, I mean, I've been basically an entrepreneur or self-employed since I was 15 years old. I mean, I think I've had 1 or 2 jobs where I wasn't an independent contractor, a freelancer, or an entrepreneur, and it was just part of that process. I'm like every human being that I don't like rejection. There were things that I was not taking action on because it was easier to focus on the busy work than the results producing activities, meaning it's easy to get caught up in creating something new or working on refining your marketing material or, all this other stuff rather than picking up the phone or walking into a business. You get to a point, if you continue to do that you get to a threshold that's going, okay, I am not going to be able to continue this as a career path if I don't overcome this. And I really had to look at, what is it that is preventing me from taking the action? Somebody introduced me to the book. I read it. And again, it was a paradigm shift of just going, holy crap. By that point, I had already studied enough about human behavior to understand the way that my conscious and unconscious work. It's those little paradigm shifts that make all the difference.
By the way, just a quick segment. This podcast is also sponsored by Willard Barth Enterprises. So check them out in the description below.
Belinda, now that you just came in, so do you have a contribution on the topic? Rejection to redirection, and then give us some context with who you are and why this means something to you.
So I believe rejection is protection. That's the way I've been taught. And Willard is one of my major teachers, so it's really exciting. We didn't plan this, that we were going to be here, but I love Willard. He's amazing.
Shout out to Josias for bringing you two together today.
Great job. You didn't even know. I just saw Willard a couple of months ago. Anyway, so going for the no, I would say that it's not a comfortable thing, but I've come to recognize if somebody's saying no, it's our energies are not matching. And so it's either I get to take a look at myself and find out, well, why isn't my energy matching? Because this is a person that I would like to work with. Or I'm really glad that I'm not going to be working with this person because they're going to suck the energy right out of me. And when I was doing one-on-one or groups, I remember wanting the sale, wanting to work with the person. You're just starting off and you want to get the sale. And then also getting to the point where you say no to someone. They're not even saying no to you. You're saying, this isn't a fit for me, and I can guide you to something else. That's a really powerful thing to get to that place. And also a little uncomfortable.
And then why don't you give us some context? Like why does that mean what it means to you? Like what did you do to where that was the conclusion?
When I said no to someone?
Yeah.
For me, my ideal client is the person that wants to do this work. They're not in the beginning of going to therapy to start working on their problem. They are already they've read many books, they've gone to different courses, they've maybe even had other coaches, they go to webinars, they go to seminars. And so they like this work, they understand it. When I get together with someone, if they're saying to me, oh yeah, I've done this before, that's not going to work, I've already tried everything, or it's the resistance to do anything that you're saying, they have a question or they're resisting right on the initial call, I know that that's how they're going to be throughout the entire time, and then it's just not going to be a fit.
Belinda, what is the work that you do? Is it coaching or a therapy of some sort, or healing or some such thing?
So yes to all of those things, and I just transitioned though. I'm now doing events, live events, and it's not no cringing. So I'm not selling events to then sell coaching and programs. My idea is to create these community events. I want them to spread across this planet where we can help people that want to find their tribe. And so having mini events pop up in different locations that the average person can just say, yes, I want to go to that. I know for me, if there was something down the road for me and it was $50 to $100 and I'm going to have all these different facilitators and people like me, I'd go once a month, once a week. And then creating larger events, 3 days, 3-day events where different practitioners come together. And if anybody's familiar with interfusion, this is kind of how this was born. Interfusion has 3 days, you pick your path. Every 90 minutes, you switch your facilitator. And during the 90 minutes, you can say, I want to do this, or I want to do this, or I want to do this. You pick your path of what you want to do. And I want to give facilitators that maybe wouldn't have this opportunity to do live events, the right people to come in and be able to connect with their people in a more organic fashion than they've done in the past.
This podcast is sponsored by Bloom Interfusion.
Not Interfusion, no, Bloomfest. Radiant Path Productions. And Willard Barth Enterprises.
Okay, so here's another. So redirection, Belinda said protection. Rejection is just life's way of narrowing your path to what's actually for you.
It's not a dead end, it's a detour sign. It's not a closed door. It's a cosmic redirect. So if you've been ghosted, let go. Told you're not ready. Good. It means you're moving. That means you're in the game. That means something better is trying to find you.
And I want to add a tennis analogy to this. I'm a tennis player. I'm a huge fan of Roger Federer too.
You're a tennis player?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. See? We discover things at every second.
Yeah, and in tennis, speaking of redirection and stuff, let's say you have a shot, and anyone can understand the analogy, but regardless of whether they play. There's only one shot that you're actually going to hit at any given moment to any part of the court, without getting into details. And you hit that shot, and then about less than 5 seconds later, there's another shot to hit, and it could be a completely different one. And every single shot does eventually need to narrow down on one spot. The next shot can be something completely different, but every single direction a person takes in life or so forth, in that same fashion, does have a direct, narrow, thing that it does do at that moment.
I have a tennis analogy that's really good. It's in conversation.
Sometimes I'm trying to talk to somebody in a conversation, and they'll start verbally vomiting, and they take over the whole conversation, or they get into presentation mode.
And sometimes I do that too. You've probably done it too at times. So it's what I like whenever somebody starts doing that. I have a reference of tennis or ping pong. So whenever they start doing that, I have an occasion specifically that I remember. And then the person just went on and on, and I closed my eyes and I made a face, and they just kept talking. So I'm like, okay, cool. When they stopped speaking, they asked me a question, and I said, look, I really don't care about what you just said, because I told you, I don't like these type of conversations. You're seminaring me, and then I just want to have a back and forth conversation. So we're both contributing to the conversation. I don't just want to hear you talk for 30 minutes straight. So have you had an occasion or a situation like that? Does that bring out a story in your past?
I have something.
Go ahead.
I don't know if I have to raise my hand.
Go ahead.
I'm a rule follower. So yes, I've been that person. Yes, I live with that person. You know him. Some of you know him. One of the most fantastic books that addresses this situation is called The Listening Path from Julia Cameron. Fantastic book about how to listen. If you work with humans, then go and get that book.
What is it called?
The Listening Path.
The Listening Path. This podcast is sponsored by The Listening Path. All right, go.
It gives you, it's very easy. It's a really easy read, and the exercises that go with it. It teaches you about listening. Most people, when they're listening to someone speak, and I was practicing while I was listening to him, like, stop doing it, because I was waiting to speak instead of listening to you. And I'm really going to tell you about the listening path while I'm waiting to speak while you're talking. But that's how most people listen, is they want to think, what do I want to say about what this person is saying, or what's the point of what this person's saying? The listening path, Josias is gone. He's not listening at all. Anyway, there's different things that go through that. They give you practices like once a week, listening to yourself, listening to other people, observing other people listening, listening from beyond the veil, which was one of my favorite things. Willard, you would absolutely love it. Saying, I want to speak to so-and-so. I spoke to Helen Keller. Helen Keller had a UK accent when I spoke to her. But anyway, check the book out. It's amazing. The Listening Path. I love Sasha Fearless is doing hair while she's on this. This is amazing.
Yeah, she's here for you know how when you're listening to a long podcast or watching a video and like everybody's ADHD nowadays. So you know how there's like a video game playing on one of the screens or on the side? That's what she's here for. So thank you, Sasha, for being fearless here. No, what I was looking for, I didn't find it, but I have a friend of mine, Rebecca Carswell. I actually met her at Toastmasters too. She wrote a book about listening. And then I was looking for the book to see what kind of wisdom there was in the book. Because this is so important. Sometimes we are focused so much on saying our point of view or not letting the conversation die, especially me, because I'm hosting this, that we forget to actually listen to what people are saying and actually give them that space to manifest themselves in their essence and like bring out what they want to share in a good way. Sometimes it takes people a longer than usual time to do it. But however, if somebody needs to get something out there and it's something beautiful that they're trying to get out there, then it's good to listen. What are some wisdom nuggets that you may have learned throughout your life and your experience that taught you to actually learn how to listen and the reasons for listening and observing and absorbing?
Josias, real quick, I want to say while I was listening, a new thought occurred to me. I have a friend named John who is also a Toastmaster at Winter Park, and he's very much into this whole field and world. Could I sign off, call him, and try to get him on this call at the same time?
Yeah, sure.
All right, I'll be back in like less than 5 minutes. All right.
All right, cool. So you guys are my mentors. I consider you guys mentors. Willard, Austin, Sasha. I'm still getting to know Sasha, but Belinda, I'm still getting to know you. But your husband's a mentor of mine. So tell me about listening. Like what have you learned in your 40 years of life about listening?
Well, there's a couple that come to mind as I'm listening to what everybody's saying. Number one, what helps me be an active listener, is the term that I use for it, is being insanely curious, wanting to truly see the world through the other person's eyes. Because I'm so aware of operating from my model of the world, I want to understand as much as I can where they're coming from, knowing that I will never fully understand where they're coming from. The only way I can do that is to listen, ask questions, probe deeper, all of those types of things. And Josias, with what you had said earlier about somebody just kind of verbally vomiting and sitting there, I've also learned over the years that it's okay for me to go, can I interject for a moment? I just want to point out, it seems like you're in a bit of a presentation mode at the moment. I'm having a hard time following the presentation. And we get back into more of a conversational aspect. I know that you're used this way, but if I'm really, in my opinion, if I'm really being active and listening, and that's what I'm sensing from it, they're probably not comfortable at the moment engaging in a conversation with me. They're just feeling they need to sell me or whatever. And I've learned to get comfortable with sharing that part with people rather than letting them go on and go on and go on in my head just shutting down. Because my just shutting down doesn't help either of us move forward in anything. So I've learned to hopefully elegantly interrupt them, look at redirecting the conversation.
What if they get combative whenever you try to gently interject? What about that?
I've also gotten comfortable with respecting that's their journey, and if they're getting combative, I just triggered something in them. And one of my coaches always says the very first thing you have to look at when you're coaching somebody is, are they open or are they closed? Closed, you can't do shit. If they're open, then I go explore that with them of, well, I'm curious, why are you seeming to be a bit defensive right now? What was it that, but if they're closed, I'm just going, and they continue down that path, I'll interject again and say, you know what, I really appreciate that you want to share. I'm not being present right now listening, so it's probably better that we have this conversation another time. And I'll end the conversation. Why waste my time? Why waste theirs? Why disrespect what they're presenting? Because I'm not going to listen. I'm going to go and shut down. I'm going to make all these judgments. I don't want to judge you. So you're having a bad day. I'm having a bad day. Let's pick it up another time. And if you don't want to, God bless you. That's cool. You're not the right person for me to engage in this conversation with. And that's okay. Not everybody's going to like me, and I'm not going to like everybody, but I'm going to love everybody and allow them to be themselves.
Wow. You know what I love about Willard is that usually these Zoom calls go for about 90 minutes. But when Willard's on, sometimes I'm like, I got enough wisdom food that I can close the call at like 30 minutes.
My friend John is coming, by the way.
Hey, welcome, John.
Yeah, I just I'm on the interstate. I'll be pulling over in a minute.
Okay, well,
hey, John.
So John, here's Austin, Willard, Jay, and Sasha, and Belinda. And Sasha is undisposed at the moment. She's doing the entertainment of letting us see how hair is done professionally in the highest caliber of fashion. This podcast is sponsored by Sasha Fearless Hair Extensions.
I could use that service, I think.
Willard, what about you? You need some hair extensions?
I had hair longer than anybody's on this call in the past, so I've gone from one extreme to the other, and I'm okay with it at this point. But thank you.
Yeah, me too.
He's done the full scope.
Yep. My hair was longer than Belinda's, probably twice as long as Belinda's at one point.
Oh my, were you a rocker?
Yes, I was.
Holy crap! Really?
That was my career for many years.
Dude. John is a musician himself, actually. A very, very prolific one.
Very cool.
Thank you. Yeah. So you're a professional musician.
I guess it's kind of like a Marine. You never are not one anymore. It's just not what I do as a living anymore. But from the time I was 15, I forget when I stopped pursuing it professionally. I guess as Mike Rose says, it's not bragging if it's true. I recorded and released a CD that one of the tracks made it to 24 on the charts overseas. I performed on Broadway with Les Paul close to 100 times.
Wow.
There are several things that I achieved as a musician. And at the same time, I was doing that when the music industry was dramatically changing due to the release of CD technology, which is the whole business model discussion, not so much anything other than it impacted the way that the music industry developed artists and no longer put interest in developing artists. Father at the time with my daughter was probably 6 or 7 years old, and I'm like, I have a passion for music, but if I am going to make sure that I take care of my family, I need to take what I've learned of being a business person in music and apply it to being a business person in other areas of life.
Absolutely. It's the changes in technology have what it means to be a musician, how you make money, and being a songwriter, and all that stuff. Very different.
Yeah, if you guys didn't know, Willard was part of electric guitar history. You know, he was there when electric guitar created history. There was a historic electric guitar moment that Willard was part of. You want to share that with us, Willard?
I'm not sure which one you're talking about. I mean,
you knew Les Paul, so there's that.
Yeah, I was friends with the man who changed electric guitar history, but I'm not sure specifically of what you're referring to mine.
You were a contributor. You were a friend of the guy.
He had already done that about 60 years earlier, so I don't know how much I contributed other than just being able to share his legacy with other people, but I appreciate it.
Post factual.
Willard, can I show you something?
Nice, very, very nice. That is awesome.
What do you think about the Trap Pro?
Check this out real quick.
Love the color.
Yes, this is the Gibson Les Paul Trad Pro 5. It's a new one. I got it in 2021. It has a tapered neck like a Fender does, and gosh darn it, I freaking love this thing.
Wow. Look at that. I love how things come together. It's amazing. We didn't even plan that.
It's a beautiful guitar. Beautiful guitar.
Thank you. And John is a bit of a guitar friend of mine, and he's showing me stuff. I'm an advanced beginner. I'm a musician myself as well, but so it's cool stuff.
We're among a good crowd, I think, because Austin just released a song. You know, I've been releasing songs. You know, I do music too. And John, I guess, Sasha Fearless, she's got the name of Beyonce.
Well, and Belinda is an amazing vocalist. If you have not heard her sing, I don't know what other instrument capability she's had, but I've had the absolute pleasure of not only hearing her sing, but singing with her at an event. It's just an amazing voice.
Willard, I have a question. Oh, not Willard. I'm sorry, Austin. Sorry about that. Austin, there's a action figure behind you on that black table, and I'm just darn curious to know who that is. I think it's Han Solo, but I know it's not.
Somebody gave this to me as a gift.
Interesting. What is it? There's no fate.
This is a very popular, somebody probably knows, WT. Anybody know these figurines? They're all over. They give them, there's all kinds of different, I'm surprised, they're really popular. They're all over, and they don't have any face carving. They're carved, and they're colored. And one of my clients gave this to me as a gift, and so I put it here as a reminder, along with the quill pen. And the shoe shine kit was, I used to shine shoes when I was 8 years old in bars, and I found the replica, and so I used that just as a reminder.
That's beautiful. And that faceless individual is he's like archetype. He's like the guy who can change any paradigm or any psychology within himself.
Yeah, it's like a heart of gold.
I love it. Wow.
Yeah.
The faceless man.
These are really popular. Hallmark stores sell them. They have pregnant women, all different themes you can think of. It's a great gift idea, by the way. If you want to give somebody a unique gift, it's going through whatever season of life. There's usually one of these. There's some theme. So it's something I cherish.
The faceless man with a heart of gold.
Well, I think the faceless is just the poetic. That it could be your face. It could be Willard's face. It could be Jay's face. Belinda, Sasha. It could be any of us, right?
Faceless man. What that reminds me is the many-faced God, from Game of Thrones. That's what brings it back to.
I was thinking this already. I've seen the Game of Thrones. I've seen that show, but it reminds me also of the book by Joseph Campbell, which I think would be great for anybody to read, called The Hero with 1,000 Faces. And that mythological book by Joseph Campbell around 1950 was the primary inspiration for the genesis of what Star Wars was.
Yes.
And the hero with 1,000 faces is a person who can embody the archetype of any and all. And that is it. Whether you're the person who gets rejected, the person who's successful, whether you're the rocker or the loser or the winner or the all-time hero. I think that's an amazing thing that can inspire the depths of a person's soul.
Yeah.
Wow. So
maybe this could be the hero with 1,000 faces.
And it's important to have a heart of gold, otherwise you can be 1,000 faces of terrible monstrosities. But with gold, you can really be an amazing individual. And I think that's what this is all about. Through the call, we're all evolving. We're all sharing this experience, and we'll all be slightly different when it's all over. We keep that up.
So we've gone from rejection to redirection. We've gone to listening, and then inadvertently we got to music, and then from music we've gotten to the faceless man, and then from the faceless we went from 1,000 faces. How can we put this together? Like how can we make sense of all this?
Maybe I'll write a poem about this.
Maybe you should.
Yeah. Does anything come up for anybody? How can we make sense? We went from rejection to redirection. We went to listen, and then we went to the faceless of music, and then from music to the faceless, and then from the faceless to the many faces and 1,000 faces, and then we hit the high point of George Lucas.
Good emceeing, Josias. I'm loving it.
I think it's the faceless is a great metaphor for we all play roles in our lives. We all have different roles that we play, and we all heard the metaphor of the masks, and we're all here. Seems like everybody here is pretty evolved, but you go out into the world and you simply observe people's faces, their physical face. Well, there's a quote that says, I can't remember who said the quote, but by the age of 25, 30 or whatever, or 50, maybe it's 50, a person has the face they deserve. And if you think about, if you just went out today after this call and you looked at people's faces, their face tells you so many things about their lives. Or they might just have a mask on. We can put that mask on. Mine was like, I have these lines in right here between my forehead, between my eyebrows, because it was like intensity, focus, like drive. I was a lot of times unapproachable because they thought I was intense. I was stuck up. People told me this. So I wonder if this faceless idea of being faceless is to just be light in your expression, and you're communicating when you don't realize you're communicating. Your face is communicating how you engage, how you show up before words come out of your mouth. So maybe this idea, not necessarily faceless, but your expression of you in the world, not face is. It's hard to do that, right? When you think about it, when you go to a meeting or you're going somewhere, you're stepping into this role that you might have to play. So can you be think of the faceless lighter with your face?
Austin, going on that, and for Belinda and John, before you entered the meeting, I was mentioning that there's a woman who gave a TED Talk sometime in the last decade about how personal development has gone towards the qualities of extroversion, charisma, sales, and she gave a call back to the qualities of Abraham Lincoln, of introspection and dignity and these sorts of things, integrity. And I think we're on that side of the thing now. And I would give another concept of the tabula rasa, which is one of those founding fathers had this idea about the blanks, or one of those French thinkers at that time, about the blank slate when you're born. Now, I don't actually personally agree with that fully, but that's besides the point. I think there are predispositions. But if you look at a blank canvas, that has truly infinite possibility. But as soon as something is put on it, as soon as a characteristic, be it even the Mona Lisa, which I saw, which is as good as they say, it's bounded. It can only be Mona Lisa, no matter how great it is. It's a entity. But the blank canvas can literally, truly populate anything onto it. And what it gets populated with depends upon the skill of the...
The Mona Lisa evolved, I think, many iterations before Vinci settled on where he settled. But you know what the faceless reminds me of is the Buddhist concept of basically having no sense of self. And I don't pursue that personally. I don't think that's a realistic goal for me. But I think that the idea of having your ego occupy a smaller and smaller space is a healthy. That's what that. Who am I and why should I matter? It doesn't really matter. Be me, and if I'm not seen.
I was thinking of more of just life is fluid. When we think of static, it's kind of constricting, but if you think of suspension of self, moments of selflessness, because we're going to have moments of selfishness, but if we can be more open to those moments of selflessness, the work that I do now, there's no utopian state that we're ever going to get to. And even if you talk about like a satori, which is this divine, it's this moment of enlightenment. It's this, we tend to sensationalize that moment. So the moment we sensationalize it is the moment we corrupt, because it's not meant to be sensationalized. When you add the word satori to it, it's like, then what we're doing, then we're gearing up. Like there's this gearing up to get there. And the moment we gear up to get there is the moment we lose it. And the only way enlightenment happens is when we are pure. And that's the paradox of it. Because the moment I try, because that's like the ego wants to get there. I think for me, it's like, and being a brand new musician, I didn't realize it was going to be a spiritual path. I had no idea. But the moment I gear up to sing the note is the moment I corrupt the note. The moment I'm pure expression that's the beautiful moment. That's what I was just learning recently, and it kind of manifested here. So I think I'll just let it land there because I don't know what else to say.
Nice stuff, man. That was fantastic.
Well, you know, I have a saying that kind of gets at what you're getting at, and for me, I say ideals are like stars in the sky. They're great for providing direction, but don't.
Oh, I missed the last part, John.
Yeah,
I missed the last part you said.
Ideals are like, I'm going to repeat it. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so ideals are like stars in the sky. They're great for giving direction, but don't pretend you're ever going to actually get them. And so for me, that encapsulates that, you know, we're on a journey. Just because we can't attain perfection doesn't drive for it.
Perfection. Interesting. However, like ideals, let's say an ideal could be like $1 billion, you know, that could be done. However, because there's a paradox there. What do you guys think about that? Like, it's a paradox of like setting a goal and accomplishing it, sacrificing like everything else toward like a really, really big goal, and then having an ideal, just like the man and the crystal shop owner in The Alchemist, whose goal was to go to the Mecca, but he chose to keep that as an ideal rather than something that he wanted to accomplish, because he felt that if he actually went there, it would actually defeat, like it would give him no more purpose. Like he would rather.
I never saw that. Did he feel like the concept of the ideal was better than actually getting there and experiencing it and corrupt it, or it would not live up to expectations?
Maybe I don't know actually, because you know I'm not in his head, but in the book it just says that he never really went there, and then he chose not to go because he said that it probably was that what you just said. I mean, what do you guys think? You guys read The Alchemist, right?
Here.
So do you have an opinion on that? Like, you know, why did the crystal shop owner decide not to go to Mecca?
I think people place too much value on the goal, the ideal, because I've got a couple of thoughts that are going on here. One is a mentor of mine used to say, at least in the United States, and this was 20 years ago, financial times have changed, but he was like, everybody wants to be a millionaire. Now they want to be a billionaire, because everybody wants to be a millionaire. But the moment that they say that, unconsciously, they've got all of these fears that kick up that are associated with becoming a millionaire. Will people still like me for me? I don't know how to deal with the tax. What am I going to do as far as investing things? How am I going to protect myself from people stealing stuff? I'm going to have to move out of my neighborhood. All of these things that stop them because they're focused on the goal rather than saying, okay, this is something to strive for, to achieve. But what I'm focused on is who do I have to become to attain that? What are the personality traits I need to develop? What are the habits that I need to get rid of to be able to become that? Because it's never about the goal. I believe that I can safely say that everybody on this call has set a goal, got there and gone, because all we were focused on was thinking we were going to feel a certain way when we got there. And when we shift to going, it's never about achieving the goal. It's about who do I have to become? You're going to meet resistance when you're going for that goal. Okay, that's what builds you to get to that point. And most people that I've run into get to a certain point of elevation in pursuing that goal, and they decide they don't want that goal anymore because now they see other possibilities and options. But because we've been so trained, I must get the goal, I must get the goal. They don't divert the course, and they stay on the way to something that's not going to make them happy anyway. So I believe in setting a standard, going after something I'm looking for, but being open to the fact that I'm probably going to change my freaking mind along the way, because the view I have from here about myself, my capabilities, and what's possible is very different when I get to here. And I go, oh crap, I've gained all these new skills, got me to here, got me to that point with music of what I was doing, but now I can take it in a new direction. I think people have a paradigm regarding goals and ideals and things that doesn't serve them as well as shifting that paradigm.
Love it. Thank you.
That's powerful. Okay, so let's conclude here. And I think I want to do a last segment here, and that's going to be this. Based on the conversation we had, can you give us one thing that you think somebody else is really, really good at? Based on the conversation, especially somebody you didn't know, or maybe somebody you do know. You know, what do you think somebody else here on this Zoom is really, really good at?
I think I'll start. I think Willard is very, very good at driving himself to become the person he needs to be to do the stuff he needs to do, like playing 100 shows on Broadway or with Les Paul, or making a 24 hit track, or that thing he said, as well as whatever he's doing now. That's the thing that called out to me immediately. I want to call.
Well, I'll point out to you. I think Sasha's amazing at being able to do hair and be involved in this conversation and participate with her acknowledgement of things and waving back to you, even though you may not see the wave right now. I know that Belinda is an amazing singer, and I know she has a tremendous heart with what she's doing with Bloom Community. I know Austin from having crewed with him. This is probably the more intimate conversation that I've been able to listen to him speaking, and just his passion for what he's doing and knowing that passion. Just meeting John, I love John's insight into things and the way that he thinks. Jay, love his insights as well. I think he has a very strong grasp on the things that he's learning, and he's got a great taste in guitars. Josias, again, this is more than learning this from this call, but it's your curiosity, your ability to facilitate and navigate something like this, and your ability to make sure that everybody's included by, calling on each person when they may want to be sitting there, being the listener rather than being involved. Everybody's got amazing strengths on the.
Yeah, this is what do you call that? This is inclusion. Like we are rallying for the DEI call.
That's why I make sure. I'm making sure that everybody's included, no matter your race or your creed.
I just wanted to point out that how Jay thought of his friend John. I could tell he really committed to growth. He has a big heart. He made a point to reach out to John. So you got to be on this call. I thought that was very, heart-centered and inclusive. It was very good. I just think, Belinda, what you're doing with I love the fact that you were talking about the proximity of people going to events that are close by that are affordable. I thought that was really a heartfelt kind of a thing to think about, make it more available for people to get together. And I think Sasha committed to be on this call, even though she's working. Really cool. I've worked with Willard before, so I know his passion, his story. It all comes together to serve others. So it's just an amazing presence here with everybody. And Josias, you always get people together. So I think that's one of your skills that you should continue to cultivate. I think that, of course, all the content, but your ability to get people into a space is your skill set. That's your superpower, in my opinion, amongst the other things that you do really well. But I just think that's a superpower because people need to be on and get together. So yeah, and nice to meet you, John. You sound amazing to me.
Oh, nice to meet you too. I appreciate you guys. How often do you do this?
I do every three times a week. I do Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Monday I do a Spanish Zoom, and then Wednesday and Friday English. And so the groups have been growing. And so Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 11 a.m. That's about the regular time. I make some exceptions, like on the weekends sometimes, because like most people work during this time. And so I'm thinking about doing something on Saturday because I met this lady in Australia, and she's been wanting to do podcasts with me. So Saturday at 5 p.m. might be the next day that I start doing another one of these for the people on the overseas. Yeah, Sasha, are you on? Are you on now?
I am. I have a minute. Hi.
Hey, you 1 minute. 1 minute of greatness. Tell us about you and what you think, or anything you want to say. Like based on.
So even though I haven't been able to completely hear the conversation, I definitely appreciate everything that's been said from everyone, from the glimpses that I heard, and I would love to come back and just be on and be able to talk more. Definitely, I'm enjoying myself.
Beautiful. Sasha also went to UPW. I think Destiny as well. She's been to a lot of the events, and she's fearless. Yeah.
Sasha, what's your brand? Is it Sasha Fearless?
Sasha Fearless. Yeah. Healing through hair.
Healing through hair. Well, I have somebody I want to connect you to. I have a friend of mine. Alex, she's actually a hairstylist who wants to get into coaching, which I know you've gotten into.
Yes, I am also a life coach. So I coach my clients, and it's a beautiful experience that we go through. I feel like I'm out here changing lives, and I love it. Yeah.
You are.
Wow. Okay, so from my side, Sasha's really great at making people look beautiful, and she looks good herself.
Thank you.
Obviously.
Austin also makes people feel beautiful.
Feel look beautiful. I think Jay is a great humorist. He didn't really show it here, but he's just a joker. Whenever like if you ever meet him in person. Willard is just great at listening and figuring out how to give you a piece of information that you actually he will feed that to you. Austin is just great at he's amazing transitioning. He just did a complete transformation from where he was at like in his lifelong, I think about 20 years, just 20-30 years in sales, and now he's going into a completely different thing, which many people are so afraid of doing. So that's courage there. I think Belinda, for the short time I met Belinda, I mean, you have a superstar of a husband. So I just
How'd you land that hunk? You know, So
that's a movie. I'm not kidding.
They're working on some great projects now, and I'm so happy like for that, be involved in those things. Do you want to tell us about the Monkey Project? A little bit about it or not?
Oh, Jeff's Monkey Project?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. So, well, first, is it okay if I go?
Yeah, absolutely. Do whatever you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
So first, Josias, I want to tell you that I've been invited to kinds of groups before, and I genuinely wanted to come for the past couple of weeks, but my voice was almost non-existent. And I was excited to come back on because I accidentally, of course there's no coincidence, hopped on with Jeff, and I didn't know that it was being recorded. So when I heard that it was being recorded, I was like, it was ridiculous what was going on in my house at the time. But it was just so wonderful, natural, and effortless how everybody talking with each other and sharing with each other and wanting to help each other. So it's beautiful, and I'm really glad to be here. And so that shows who you are and the kind of energy that you're bringing in. And I know you and Jeff made a huge connection. That also says something about you because Jeff has huge energy, and for some people, they're like, I can't be with that energy. So you two have a matching that kind of energetic field. Willard never ceases to amaze me. I've known Willard for a long time, an amazing teacher of mine. He said, I love when he was about to talk about himself and the music, and he wanted to remind himself, like, okay, it's not bragging if it's true. And I was like, look at Willard. He's still so humble. And I love that about him and all of the lives that he's led and he shares with us. Austin, the memorabilia that you have behind you, the fact that you went out and you have the shine box from when you were 8 years old and then you had this little heart. Oh, it just shows me the kind of person you are and the heart that you have, the amount of emotion that you put into whatever it is that you're doing. And I've only, met you here on this call. And how John came onto this call, like it just shows how involved you are with this type. You're like, yes, how can I serve? How can I help? You just wanted to come on. I also don't know you. I love how all of us we could create a band here. And Sasha Fearless, Beyonce back there, just on, she's right there. And Jay, you are a person that I can tell that just like, if there's anything I can help with, let me give you the information, let me share with you, and you have it. And the analogies that you share and the wisdom that you share is really beautiful. So I've really enjoyed being on the call with all of you. So thank you. And for my husband's monkey, the electric blue monkey. So he is creating something for parents to remember how to play, because Jeffrey is extremely playful. He always has been. And this all started when we brought our son or had parties for him. So you'd be like in the ball pits or you'd be shooting those little air guns with the little whatever they are. My husband would always be in with the kids playing. And because of the way that he was, parents would be sitting there, even me, by the way. I was never into the play. I would organize the play. But he'd be in there. And then the other parents are looking at him first, like, what the hell is this guy doing? But then by the end of the birthday parties, all the parents would be in the ball pits or they'd be shooting the little foam thing. And it was really an amazing experience that he had this ability to get people to want to go in and play. So he is creating this whole he wants to have a facility, he wants to have a camp. So he's starting out to create a place for parents to come to play. And I want to actually give him an opportunity through Bloomfest to do something here on Long Island where we could have a day where parents, and this would all be like people that are interested in personal development, parents bring their children and they get the opportunity to do fun things and also things that we say are fun, little meditations or little breath work, but keeping it all inclusive in how children can interact with their parents, be playful. So that's what he's doing.
That sounds very, very new age and very good.
Yeah, we need it.
Wow. Jay, you want to go? Or did you go already?
Me? Yeah, I basically went, yeah.
Okay. All right. So and then the inspiration for this segment, I didn't even remember, but I can assume that this is where it came from. I remember Zig Ziglar said a quote. He had an exercise that he used to do with, and I think Tony Robbins does this too, where whenever it comes to the waiter, he had a story about a waiter that was excellent. He had an excellent waiter that waited on them in a restaurant, and then he decided to leave the waiter a little note, and it just said like, I like Gene Smith because just that little sleep of paper. I know some of you know the story. Mm-hmm. And it was a little piece of paper, super simple. It said
maybe like three, like two sentences maybe. And then when he gave this slip of paper to the waiter of real appreciation, the waiter came back out and thanked him because he never had anything like that happen to him before. I took this story and I took it to heart because I used to listen to Zig Ziglar profusely, and I participated in a play in Coco Village. It was The Music Man, or it was actually Miss Saigon. And when after the rehearsals, we did a circle up. We used to circle up, and then I wrote a little slip of paper for every single person in the cast. I like you because, and that's how I met one of my best friends. Because after I did that, the person, the headliner, they said, "Man, I gotta be friends with this guy because he did this for everybody." I just want to encourage you guys, if you haven't been doing this lately, do this little quick exercise today, this week. Just take a little slip of paper and write down, "I like this person because," to a complete stranger, somebody you don't know, you don't even know. Who's it?
All right, so it isn't about flattery. It's by seeing somebody else's light and telling them so. Because a lot of people are in dark places, and you wouldn't even know why they're being mean or they're being rude or whatever. And it's because they're just in a dark place or in a cave. It's terrible. Closing thoughts. I'll give a quick round of closing thoughts. Give one word or one sentence, and then we'll end the call.
My closing thought is, let's use everything here and so forth for the betterment of all.
Austin.
We shall not cease from exploration, and in all of our exploring, we shall arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. T.S. Eliot.
Belinda.
We're just saying a quote. Is that what we're doing?
Closing thoughts. A sentence or
just
word.
Closing thoughts?
Yeah.
So for me, closing thought is just practicing to be a really great listener, although I wasn't because I was messaging you. Practicing being a really great listener. And for me, that means keeping my feet on the ground, putting my hands on my lap and feeling. Because anytime I'm not being a good listener, I got something going on in the gut area.
Willard.
Continue to be curious.
Yeah, Sasha.
Closing thought, just love unconditionally and don't judge others based off of appearance.
Wow. John.
Mindfulness cannot exist without intent. And what I love about what you're talking about is writing the note. And I believe in writing in many forms as the most important, gain control over your future and your personal development. But when you write things, that is about as intentional as you can get. And I love that story. But I believe that there is no mind. There's no mind.
Okay, so let's send this on truth with a Zig Ziglar style closing thought. People don't remember the stats, the strategies, or even the goals. They remember how you made them feel. So take this with you. Every time you listen, uplift, or say, "I like you because." You're doing something most people never do. You're building a legacy through love. Now, go be the reason somebody believes in themselves again.
Take care, everybody.
God bless. Thank you so much, Josias. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks for having me.
Everyone, bye.
Bye.